First of all, thank you so much for joining us on this very pleasant evening and for carving the time away from your friends, family on a Thursday evening is highly appreciated. And what we promise on our side is to make it worthwhile. We understand that meeting with us is a commitment, and on your behalf, especially in the evening time after perhaps a long day. And what we will do on our behalf is to try our best to be of value added to you, and that's what we want to achieve. So I start by introducing myself. My name is Mohsen Saad. I am the university chair in the CFA Society Emirates. I'm a board member, obviously, and I'm keenly interested in all events that serve our candidates. And I truly do that. I truly do that because out of sense of care. I think it is the candidates that I would like to serve them more. And hence this webinar. And the webinar is meant to hear you out. So a big objective of today is to be able to get to know what you have in mind, the kind of questions that is in your heads, and we would want to try to answer them, or at least direct you, or kind of settle some of these doubts down. So with that objective in mind, we plan to do the following. So we have a little bit of few steps, which is a little bit structured, and that's a good thing. So again, we want to do this in a way that is valuable to you. So our first step is to go to your go-to exam strategy tips by PwC Academy, and we're extremely lucky today to have Vishal with us. He's the senior manager at PwC Academy Middle East. He will be sharing with us the expertise and will be able to talk to us and share with us a wealth of experience. And if I were you, I would ask all the questions I have in mind, take advantage of this beautiful opportunity. And then after that, we go to we hear from Kristina. She's the program manager at the CFA Institute, and she is an expert in everything that relates to CBT. You know, when they move from paper to computer-based tests, I'm sure there must be tons of questions in your head. So here is the chance. So please open up, because we have two experts with us who are generous to share with us their time. I would take the advantage and encourage you to talk to us, because that's everything we're trying to do. Get to know what's in your heads and hopefully try to address some of those. After that, there is a little bit of mindset before the exam. So we talk a little bit about that, and we need to have a Q&A session. Without further ado, again, I welcome you, and I can't wait to see what the experts have to say and your questions as well. And I will start with Vishal. So Vishal, the floor is yours, and please feel free to start.
Thank you very much, Mohsen. Really appreciate the introduction. Hello, everybody. I know a couple of people on the list. I've met you at different times during my journey of teaching CFA over these many years. So wonderful to see you all here. As Mohsen said, it's a pleasure that all of you took your time out and came here to attend this session. The idea is to give you value in the next 1 hour, but it's a function of something that I want to share and what you want to know. So first, I want to talk about the go-to exam strategy. So here, my focus is to address the November examinations and tell you basically the mindset that you should be having in the last 10 to 15 days with respect to preparing stuff that will ensure that your success goes up in the exam. But besides that, if there's something else that you want to address, please feel free to put it on the chat, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions. So ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for taking the time out and joining us today. Now, the thing that I want to talk about is what do you need to do in the last 15 days as the exam approaches, right? So depending upon what level you are in, there is anywhere between 10 to 15 days left. So the way I have designed the study strategy over the past few years that has helped many candidates pass their exam is to reverse work it. But before I essentially talk about the study strategy that one needs to adopt, we need to talk about some of the most important things or most important mistakes that people make. Some of the mistakes that people make is not review the entire content, be selective about stuff that you study, skip stuff and hope that it doesn't come in the exam. And that essentially is a recipe for disaster. Because there could practically be 4 or 5 questions that could be a deciding factor in whether you pass or fail the exam. So not reviewing the whole content just before the exam is one of the biggest mistake that everybody makes. You need to do everything. There is nothing that is optional. You may have strong areas and weak areas, but you need to cover everything. So that is the premise under which this strategy has been designed. So let's work backwards. So the way I start working is, let's say our exam date is on 26th of November. So if our exam is on 26th of November, then logically 24th, 25th, and 26th, at a bare minimum, the last 3 days, you should only be reviewing content. Ladies and gentlemen, you should not be solving questions. 24th, 25th, and 26th, these 3 days are essentially for reviewing content, going over mistakes that you have done in the past while you solved CFA questions. This is the point at which you consolidate your knowledge, you cover all the necessary information, and you review your formulas. You do not solve. Now, why do I say you not solve? Because solvings at this point in time can expose you to mistakes, which might reduce your confidence. Going into the exam with high confidence is critical. So in the last 3 days, your focus should be to review the content, go over the mistakes, read the formula. So every night you have to review the formulas. How do you review the formulas? Take up your formula sheet, blow them up in A3 size, stick on your wall, and every time you walk through the wall, go over that formula sheet. It is extremely important that you do that. Now, this will kind of ensure that all the knowledge that is necessary is consolidated and you are fresh moving into the examination. So last 3 days is that. Now, prior to that, the 5 to 6 days before that should be focused on mock examinations. Now, you should, let's say, put in 5 days worth of mock exams, where logically you can cover anywhere between 4 to 5 mocks. Now, what mocks should you be doing? Without fail, you should ensure all the CFA Institute mocks have to be completed. CFA Institute material is the most representative of the actual examination. So therefore, please, ladies and gentlemen, ensure that you cover the CFA mocks. Besides that, try and do the mocks that give you the platform exposure of the Prometric. So try to get mocks in the CBT format. Get yourself acclimatized of solving 2 hour, 15 minutes non-stop mocks. So ensure you do the CFA mocks and mocks from prep providers whose mocks simulate the actual exam conditions to the best. Now, one of the mistakes that everybody makes when you're doing the mock exam is take it in sections. Just do equity, then go for a cup of coffee, come back, and then do corporate finance. This is a big mistake. Your exam isn't structured like that. Your exam is structured at one go. And it's a very tiring exam. So especially if you're giving in level 1 and you have no experience of past, it's important that you simulate multiple mocks, at least 2 to 3, in the way of the actual exam. So you should actually be doing 2 hours, 15 minutes, take a 15-minute break or half an hour break and restart. So this is extremely important. So you do the mock in the simulated format. Now, as I said, that you need to ensure that you have to do the CFA mock, but keep it at the last. First, try and do all the other mocks from the prep providers that you have. And then at the end, do the CFA mock that will build up your confidence as you go into the exam. From my experience, if you have scored around 65% on these mocks, you are reasonably well prepared. You have reasonably high probability of passing. If you have above 70, then your probability of success is even greater. But 65 to 70 is a decent scores in this mocks, and that is what you should aspire for. Initially, you might not do it at 65%. The first couple of mocks maybe be slightly lower, but by the time you end to your third or fourth mock, you should aspire to ensure that you reach the score of 65 to 70%. Now, how do you structure a mock day? Now, when you are structuring a mock day, in the morning hours, when your brain is fresh, you do the mock. So you do the morning session, take the break, you do the afternoon session. And after that, spend the second half just reviewing the mock. Go through every answer, not the only ones that you got wrong, even the ones you got right. Did you get it right for the right reasons? That is a key aspect. So you have to go through, because the answers will teach you. These mocks are beautifully designed, where the wrong answers will also help you avoid those mistakes in the exams. So please do the mocks. Don't be afraid of scoring less and not doing the mocks, because that essentially will not give you any exam experience and you will be up for a shock when you see the actual exams. So we are now done with the last 8 days before the exam, right? So 3 days essentially of self-study, proper review with formulas and mistakes, and 5 days of mocks. Now we have a week before that. Now what should we do in that week? Hopefully we have covered the syllabus. So this is the time for second review. Now, assuming you have covered the syllabus once, this is the 1 week where you review. Now, Vishal, you have been constantly saying review. Review from where? So review can be from your own short notes that you have done. Don't go the mistake. Don't go and make the mistake of reading the whole book again. You will just get overwhelmed with a lot of information and you will panic and you will not be able to cover. So this 7 days, whatever short notes you have prepared, use them to revise. Along with that, if you don't have your short notes, there are fantastic tools available from prep providers like Secret Sauce, the 11th hour guides. These are different products that are available. Use these to revise. So this will essentially consolidate all the key concepts in a very short period of time for you. So the 7 days will be focused on consolidating information. But as you consolidate, you have to have a 7-day plan. That 7-day plan means dividing the 10 topics across those 7 days. And smartly, you have to allocate time based on weightage. So obviously higher weights have to go for ethics, fixed income, equity, and FRA. These are big ones. Together, they are roughly 50% of your exam. You don't do well in this, you don't pass. So accordingly, allocate more time to these subjects. Review them properly. As you review them properly, this is a point at which you would want to get in some additional practice. So to get in some additional practice in those 7 days, you can look at the questions from your CFA online ecosystem. You can actually go there and solve those. They are really high quality. They are tough. They are tougher probably from my experience than the actual exam, from what students generally say that the level of difficulty is higher, but still it's very, very useful for you to do the online questions. In case the online questions, you don't want to go there, you can still focus on the CFA end of chapter curriculum questions. Either of this could be the practice resource that you are using in that period of time. So the 7-day of review of the whole syllabus, along with practice of either the CFA end of chapter or CFA online. So that's our 15-day go-to plan. Now, be practical about what you can achieve in this 15 days. You can't overcome all your weaknesses, so don't stress on that and spend too much time on that. You also need to focus on strengthening your strong points and overcoming your weaknesses to the level that you can get 50 to 60% on those areas. I always tell something to my students, doing a few things properly is better than doing many things badly. So focus on channelizing your energies on a focused content over the last 15 days to ensure you absolutely smash the examination. So let's review our plan. We have 15 days to go for the exam. Adjust the number of days if you have lesser number of days. So if you have 15 days to go for the exam, the first 7 days is review of the content. Through what? Your own notes or some kind of a revision material from the prep providers. Along with this, it's important to practice questions. Where do we get the questions from? The CFA end of chapter or the CFA online if you're already done with the end of chapter. 7 days are done. We have revised. In this 7 days, we will allocate time based on the weightage of topics. After these 7 days, we will spend 5 days on mocks. Aim to do 4 to 5 mocks. 4 to 5 mocks from prep providers, but most importantly, the CFA mocks. The CFA mocks have to be done. The CFA website mocks have to be done. Keep them last. So what is our mock day going to look like? We are going to do the mock. We are going to check for all the answers, review our mistake, and then the next day go for the second mock. 5 days of mock is done. Then we come to the final phase, the final review and consolidate phase. So in these 3 days, we'll again read our notes slowly and steadily to absorb all the nuances, all the information, review the formula sheet and go over the mistakes. You follow this strategy and you will absolutely smash the exam. But the key is discipline. You have to be disciplined. This is going to take a lot of effort, right? Anywhere between 7 to 8 hours a day. Now, if you're working and you don't have a leave, it's going to be a tough challenge. But CFA is one of the best programs out there, right? And nothing good comes easy. So you need to be prepared to put in those hours. So if you follow this particular strategy, I'm very, very confident that it's worked for thousands of students that I've taught. It will work wonderfully well for you. So that is my go-to exam strategy. That has, the recipe of all the elements that needs for you to succeed in the exam. So that's my strategy. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, or Evie, over to you, or Mohsen.
Yeah, do you, I mean, according to the plan, the agenda, the questions come in the end.
Okay,
So,
sure. Yes.
so
We'll take the
we,
questions at the end.
yes, although like I'm burning to ask you a couple of questions, perhaps. So, but thank you. That was amazingly useful. I really appreciate it. Kristina, please, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Kristina Fitzhugh. I'm the manager of CFA program at CFA Institute. And I'm going to talk really briefly about computer-based testing and kind of what to expect as we're, 15, 20 days out from the exam. I'll go over those details, but of course, there's a lot more to computer-based testing than just what to know, right, leading up to the exam. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have at the end of the session. So as we approach exam day for many of you, in addition to having reviewed the curriculum and being very comfortable with the content, you really want to be comfortable with sitting for a computer-based exam and knowing exactly what to expect on exam day. So you're not surprised and no anxiety is caused at the last minute by some of these things that can pop up. While the exam itself is administered via computer-based testing now, it different from previous paper-based testing, much of the procedures and the process and the way the exam is presented is the same. It's just simply on a computer versus on paper. The most important thing to do as you get close to your exam day is to review your appointment details. So look for the most recent email from Prometric, our testing vendor. That will include the date, time, and location. Make sure it's the most recent email from Prometric. Occasionally, your appointment can be changed by them if for some reason the test center needs to close or something like that. So it's really important you know exactly when you're supposed to be there, what time your appointment is, and the location. Because now with computer-based testing, many cities have multiple locations. It's not just like old paper-based testing. Everybody knew it was going to be at the same convention center year after year. So it's a little different. So you want to make sure you know exactly where you're going. Some candidates find it helpful to plan out their route ahead of time, especially if it's a venue you haven't been to, or with these computer-based testing venues, a lot of times it is, one part of a larger office building. So making sure you know exactly where to go once you get to that larger office building. Because if you are late to your appointment, you won't be able to sit for the exam. So it's really important that you know exactly where you're going. You get there with plenty of time. You don't want to feel rushed and be concerned, because you want to be focused on that content and not have to worry about these other things going on. Another important thing to keep in mind is that we want to be familiar with the entrance requirements for the test centers. We are, of course, still in the pandemic, and so all Prometric test centers will require candidates to attest that they haven't been exposed to anybody with COVID, they're not feeling any symptoms associated with COVID, and most test centers around the world do require masks to be worn the entire time. So just important to check all those details. That is available on our website and on Prometric's website. You can see all the specifics, but just make sure you're familiar with those. If you don't meet the entrance requirements for some reason, you have been exposed because of COVID or something like that, you can reach out to CFA Institute's contact center. We'd be happy to help you with those issues. The next thing is to know exactly what a computer-based exam looks like. So we all know what paper exams look like. We've taken them probably throughout school for years, but for many of us, computer-based exams are new. So it's really helpful to be comfortable with what the software is going to look like, so you can go in and really focus on that content and not be distracted. Prometric, our testing vendor, has a really helpful tutorial. It's available on their website publicly, or if you're registered for the exam, you can find it through CFA Institute's website in the Candidate Resources section. So if you log into CFA Institute's website, under CFA program, you'll see a section called Registered Candidates Resources. That page has a lot of helpful information, including this tutorial. So the tutorial will walk you through it. It'll show you exactly on your computer screen what it will look like at the test center. It'll show you some helpful features like how to flag questions if you want to go back and review them after the fact, how to cross out answers that you know are not the right option, you don't want to think about them anymore, or how to use the highlighter feature. So different functionality like that it's helpful to know ahead of time. This tutorial is available on exam day if you don't have time to review it in advance, but it's always helpful to take some time a day or two before just to make sure you're comfortable with it. But if you're not able to, don't worry. It won't take any of your exam time on exam day. It doesn't count against your test time, but you'll be able to walk through that on exam day as well. Our website will also provide a lot of helpful information as it leads up to exam day, approximately how many questions to expect so you can help manage your time. There's also helpful information, especially if you're a level 3 candidate with the essay portion. So I know that's a little different, having to enter that on a computer, having to type that out and what that may look like. So there's some really helpful information on our website that I would definitely encourage level 3 candidates to check out. How it's displayed on screen. So a split screen, the question on the left and the answers on the right, versus some computers will display it differently. So all of that's really helpful to know ahead of time so you can help plan and make sure you manage your time as you move through the exam. A couple more important points to remember. A valid international travel passport, that is your ticket into the exam. We don't provide exam tickets anymore like we did with paper-based testing. You simply show up to the test center and you'll show them your valid international travel passport. That is the acceptable form of identification for the exams. So it's really important that you have that with you, and to make sure that your name exactly matches from your passport to your CFA Institute account. If you have any issues before the exam, you can reach out to our customer service team. They'd be happy to help you, but that is time sensitive. So if you notice any differences in your name from your passport to what's on file with CFA Institute, definitely reach out as soon as possible, because we don't want you to be turned away for something as simple as that. It's important to review all of the CFA program testing policies prior to the exam. This includes personal belongings, so you can know what exactly you can take into the exam room with you and what needs to be left outside of the exam room. Many of these test centers will have a locker or a little cubby where you can leave your personal belongings that's outside of the testing room, but you might not be comfortable leaving some things there, or you might just not want to have to carry everything with you. So, some things you're definitely going to want to remember is your calculator. You want to make sure you have that, because that functionality is not provided on the computer. So you want to make sure you can work through any calculation questions you have. We still have the same approved calculators. All of that information is available on our website, but definitely don't forget your calculator. Any medications that you need to take throughout the exam, eyeglasses, things like that are all allowed to be taken in. But other things like food, water, cell phones, watches will need to be left outside of the exam room. So review that personal belongings policy before you get to the test center, so you know exactly what you can take in with you and you're fully prepared. All of this information that I just went through is available very concisely in what we call the candidate checklist. And again, that's available in the candidate resources section of our website. It has a great countdown. So it has a section of what to do a couple of months out, what to do a couple of weeks out, and what to bring with you on exam day. And it'll link out to some of our policies as well. So that's a really helpful resource to help you plan as you get close to your exam appointment. The only other thing I wanted to highlight really quickly is that we have changed our exam schedule slightly for 2022 and 2023. So as you're looking to sit in November or February, May of next year, and then plan out the rest of your journey through the CFA program, it's helpful to know when these exams are offered. So in 2022, we'll continue to offer level 1 4 times a year, but we'll actually be offering level 2 3 times a year now, and then level 3 will still be twice. In 2023, we'll follow the same number of offerings. So level 1 will still be offered 4 times, level 2 3, and level 3 twice, but the months have shifted a little bit. So it's a lot of details, but all of that information is available on our website. It shows it for you, and we have some helpful pathing documents that'll basically say if you sit for level 1 here or level 2 here, this is when you can take your next exam, and this is when you might be able to earn the charter. So it's just helpful to know when these are offered so you can plan out your journey. And there might be some windows that work better with personal circumstances or your work schedule than others. So review that. I hope that everybody that is registered for November is of course successful and able to move on to the next exam, but it's helpful to know when you might be able to earn that charter. So I know I quickly went through a lot of details and some of the highlights here. There's a lot more to CFA program, and I will be available at the end to answer any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much. That was information intense and quite useful. So I really, truly appreciate it. I was trying to capture everything you were saying, but the good thing is that this information is also available, as you have mentioned. So I truly appreciate that. So moving on with the plan is to hear back from Vishal on his recommendations or suggestions regarding your mindset as you're approaching your big day in November, and then we open the floor for questions and answers. So Vishal, please.
Thank you so much, Mohsen. And I'm not going to let you go that easily. Like once I am done, I would insist that you use your own experience to tell people what you felt and what you did psychologically to prep for the exam. And ladies and gentlemen, so in the past decade plus, since I've been training for the program, I think one of the deal-breaking factors is actually your psychological mindset in the last few days when you approach the exam. A lot of us probably can win the technical battle, but we end up losing the behavioral battle. The behavioral battle is essentially a battle of developing self-belief and confidence as you walk into that exam hall and believing that you will absolutely smash the exam. And what I'm going to tell you has worked for many, many students. I recently did this for a big bunch of people, and I want you to do exactly what I say. And this will ensure that you will feel very confident as you walk into the exam center. Now, before I tell you exactly what are the tips to be successful psychologically when you walk into the exam, what I want to tell you, first of all, is what makes it miserable. Many of you, very honestly, if this was a face-to-face session, I would have asked you, how many of you are miserable? How many of you probably question, why did I take the CFA exam? And I'm sure most of you would raise your hands. And a couple of reasons why we become miserable, right? Why you become miserable is very, very simply to do with the fact of comparing yourself. One of the things that we all do is where am I versus where somebody else is. I've seen all my students do this. Oh, sir, I have not done the CFA end of chapter. He's done the CFA end of chapter. Am I going to fail the exam? Right? He's studying 16 hours a day. I have work. First of all, comparison doesn't work. Each of us has different pathways to success. Each of us has a different manner of study. Some people love revising content multiple times. Some people just focus on reading it well once. I'm one of those. I have never in my life done a revision because I couldn't ever finish the syllabus. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, your own pathway is yours. So therefore, you cannot compare. So first of all, your friends, wish them success, but don't compare what is their prep, what they have done. What you need to understand is what you need to do and do it properly over the next few days. So first and foremost, stop comparing, because comparing is only going to make you miserable. Number two is, I'm going to go by C's. Be concise. You know why I'm saying be concise? One of the things you do is you have few days left and you want to cover the whole world. You know what happens? You know, Vishal, my friend has told me I have to do the CFA online ecosystem. I have to do the CFA end of chapter. I have to do 10 mocks. I have to read the content. You're just one human being with 24 hours in a day. You're not going to cover everything under the sun. So the most important thing is you are overwhelming yourself. You set goals which are unachievable. And when you set goals which are unachievable, you progress towards it. You don't make it, you give up. One day later, you said, I can't do this, Vishal. And why you can't do this? Because you set yourself targets which are completely unrealistic. If you set unrealistic targets, you will not achieve your goals. So don't compare and be concise. Now, when I say be concise, I gave you a plan. Stick to that plan. If that plan is a bit too overwhelming, you know, concise it even further. But the focus, and remember my words, do little, whatever is necessary, and do it properly, rather than doing everything in a haphazard and chaotic manner. So very, very important is don't compare, be concise, set realistic targets, and that should aid you to relax. Third and most important thing, developing the positive mindset, the half glass full mindset. Many of us, when we look at our journey of 6 months, are constantly stressed about, I don't know duration and convexity in fixed income, or what the hell is deferred taxes. Usually these are the problems that, and our mindset is constantly negatively focusing on the 15% of the syllabus that we don't know. So recently I had this experiment. I asked people in a group of people who were probably struggling with a particular topic. I said, hey, how do you find quants? They said, oh, quants is really hard, Vishal. It's really hard. I'm really bad at quants. And then I said, okay, Let me ask you, do you know time value of money? They said, yeah, I know time. Do you know statistics? Yeah, I know statistics. Do you know probability, expected value? Yeah, I know probability. And then they realized that there are three concepts in totality they didn't understand. And what was the statement? I don't know points. So making inappropriate generalizations creates negativity. So ask yourself that I don't know the whole topic, or I don't specifically know certain specific areas. So don't create negative. So you have to now see from where you started to where you have come, how much you have evolved, how much you know. And trust me, you know more than what you don't know. So first and foremost, you have to change your mindset that I know enough. I know more than enough first. So there is a lot of positive knowledge that I have, which I can reproduce in the exam and succeed using it. So that is a very, very important mindset. Yes, you will not know everything. I am a teacher teaching all 10 topics of CFA for 11 years, and I can't tell you that I know everything properly. It's very likely, it's very risky to say this on a public platform. I know enough to help you pass the exam. But what I mean is that we are evolving every year as well. You know, all of us, all CFA charters holder keep learning. So you don't need to be an expert at everything to smash the exam. So give yourself that benefit of doubt that you know the 80% content well. Focus your energies on that and work on getting that 20% to a perfection level, right? As far as possible. But don't stress on it. So what are the three things? Compare, don't, be concise, and ensure that you build on focusing on the half glass full mindset and looking at what you know. And last but not the least, and the most important, which has worked wonders for me every time I've stepped into the examination, the psychology when I start the exam, I feel very relaxed. I go into this Zen mode. When I have the exam in financial CFA jargon, I like to optimize my Sharpe ratio, right? Highest possible reward for the time invested. So when I go there, I actually am looking to optimize, scratch, grab. I'm not stressed by the couple of questions I don't know. Those are the ones I just say, okay, this is not mine, but I will look for areas where I can add. So the mindset of, scratching and winning and constantly looking, okay, I've got one there, I've got one there. So you have to feel good when you're writing the exam. You have to feel that I'm here to optimize and not stress about the 2 questions or 3 questions I don't know. So you have to constantly optimize your exam experience. Only if you're positive and keep reinforcing that I'm getting that, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, your positive mindset will essentially ensure that you get more questions right than wrong. And that's helped me. It's absolutely helped me. So ensure that you follow these techniques and it will surely help your behavioral mindsets improve. And last but not the least, I want you to do this with me. I know you can't unmute yourself, but I'm going to end by saying something that I want you to repeat. You should repeat that we've got this and we are going to smash this. Say that in your mind, that you've got this and you're going to smash this.
We've got this and I'm going to smash this. I said it public. That's awesome. I don't know. I don't know about you. I am so impressed by what I heard. I mean, and I think hearing you, everybody is thinking, we're so happy we're listening to you because nobody could have said it better. I thank you, and I'm a professor myself, so but I couldn't have said it the way you did. This was really truly amazing. Don't
You're
compare.
being too kind, Mohsen. You're being too kind.
No, I'm not. I said what I saw, and I described what I saw. Don't compare. Be concise. Be positive. Focus on the half filled, and then on the exam day, grab as much as you can, and don't be worried about things that don't belong to you. They don't, and just get an inch there, an inch close. And keep adding, and I love it. I think this was fantastic 4 sets of strategies. Now that we've heard all of that, I think it is time for you to speak, meaning the audience, and to ask us questions. So we open the floor, and like how we started. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So. Anything on your heads, please let us know. Is there anything as it relates to how you prepare before the exam in the last days, as because we are 2 weeks away, or as so you have the right person? I think Dar wants to raise hand. Yeah.
Yes, yes, Mohsen. My question is for Vishal. I'm actually a CFA level 3 candidate, so I just wanted to, want some advice on any suggestions or any tips for the last 10 days. I'm sitting on 23rd for the last 10 days for the AM session.
Absolutely. And I think it's a very, very valid and a relevant question. I just finished my level 3 batch yesterday, revisions, and exactly talked about some of these things. So Dar, I think it's a very, very different experience writing the essay portion of the exam compared to all the past levels where we have just attempted item sets. Now, obviously, I don't know your level of preparation and what you have done so far. So I'm just going to assume a few things, but if you need more clarity and some deviations, I'm happy to guide that further as well. Now, what I would recommend and what are the challenges that you need to keep in mind before you go into a level 3 essay section. So let's start by pointers. Number one is basically why the essay sections hurt you. First and foremost is most people don't finish the exam on time. Historically, it's observed people leave up to 30% of the morning section, and that essentially hurts scoring you. So the first and the most important tip that I would like to give you is time management, being very precise, concise, and still addressing the answer very, very clearly. Ensure that you don't basically overwrite your first question. A lot of my students have got into the trap where they spend too much time in question number 1, and therefore they always play catch up. CFA essay section is designed beautifully to absolutely take your 2 hours and 15 minutes. There is no buffer built in. So if you fall behind, you'll always play catch up, and it stresses you and you keep making mistakes because you're playing catch up. So that is the first and the most important point. The second thing is learning basically how to address the question itself. I have seen students constantly not understand what the question is, but rather write what they would like to write on the answer. So in the essay section, it's very, very, very important to understand precisely what the question is asking, right? So I'll give you an example. There was a recent mock exam where we had a question where we said contrast two strategies within asset allocation. Contrast. And the person came with the answer where he had essentially said strategy 1 is this and strategy 2 is this. I gave them 0 marks because what was the command word? Contrast. Basically, they did not ask you to define strategy 1 versus define strategy 2. They were very, very precise in saying contrast. So contrast means identify the differences. So for example, if you're deterministic versus Monte Carlo approach in asset allocation strategy, you needed to identify that one is a linear measure, which basically underestimates the volatility, whereas the other one overcomes this as a drawback. So LOS and command words are going to be the key for you when you are addressing the answer. So time management, reading the question very, very specifically in terms of addressing it. Number 3, as Kristina said, please practice on the platform. Please practice on the platform. I'm making most of my students do this. Say, take a hypothetical question, go to the Prometric platform and type a few answers there, because that is another very important area. So type a few answers, get into that typing zone, typing mode if you have not already got it, because you will be surprised. I've seen a lot of answers or people are very comfortable in writing answers, but when it comes to typing, somehow it's going chaotic. What they are thinking and what they are reproducing on the computer are two different things. So type and simulate the answers. Fourth, at least try 2 full mock exams. At least 2, right? One is available on the CFA website and basically another one, right? So at least try 2 full mock exams without fail. And last but not the least is level 3, especially I would recommend keep the last 3 to 4 days to review the content. Because of the new structure, the exam can come from any nook and corner. So if you are just practicing till the very last day, you are not giving yourself the opportunity to consolidate information. So use the last 3 to 4 days to ensure that you consolidate your knowledge and just focus on reading through the entire material through your notes or some kind of a passmate or a review sheets or Wiley 11th hour guide, right? So that will be basically my summary advice. Hopefully that was useful.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much.
Oh, that was Paula is asking a very good question in the chat. Do I read it on your behalf, Paula, or would you like to? Do I read it? It's in the chat box. Since I can. So Paula is saying, I'm gonna direct the question to you, Vishal, given your experience. I have 6 days left. How can I use my time efficiently with your study strategy? But the challenge that Paula is facing is this: I still have some of the end of chapter problems left.
Right.
So short amount of time and some of the end of chapters, and she's asking, how does she strategize her time efficiently? So would you please let us know? Yeah.
Brilliant, Paula. So see, I would still suggest that the last 2 days have to still go into review. So out of 6 days, your last 2 days have to still focus on reviewing the content, because it's logical that some of the stuff that you had read, you would have read long time back. So if you don't review the content in the last 2 days, you're not consolidating information. You're not giving the brain the opportunity to review the formula. That leaves you 4 days. Now, logically, in this circumstance, given that you have not done mocks, I would recommend at least doing 1 mock to get that exam experience of 4.5 hours. So let's say one of the days could be focused towards doing 1 CFA mock exam, which is available on the website, right? So 1 day, and the remaining 3 days, try and focus and cover as many questions as you can from the end of chapter, right? Now, for example, you don't need to go through and solve every questions. If you are having a lack of time, then probably you solve some of them, you review the others. But in the 3 days, try to solve and review and finish the end of chapter. Use the 4th day for 1 mock so that you have an exam experience, and use the last 2 days for review. So this is basically what I would recommend would be the best way to go about it.
Paula, does that answer, does that give you, or do you still have a concern now that you heard a recommendation?
That's fine. I hope you can hear me.
So basically, the coming 3 days, do the practice, leave a day for mock, and then immediately after that, 2 days to do content, comprehensive view of content. What would you tell her now that she is left with quite a bit and she's thinking comparison? Because Vishal, I was thinking comparison. So I'm hearing someone else is doing 5 days of mock, and then I'm only left with 1 day of mock. And immediately, what would we tell her in this?
I think I would just repeat exactly what I said, right, Paula? You have your own path, you had your own challenges, and you have carved your own niche to success. And I think you have to believe that this is still going to work. And honestly, I have known people who have not done a single mock and passed the exam. So there is no one pathway to success, or there's no one rule. Based on our experience, we do create a generalization where we said that there should be 4 or 5 mocks done, but those are generalizations. Maybe you are one of those who reads so diligently that she doesn't need as much mocks as anybody else. So don't stress about what others have done. Even in this 6 days, just focus on optimizing. You have to optimize these 6 days, make the best out of it so that you can give your best performance. And I think there was somebody who said something very nice, that on the last day, it's also important to get a good amount of sleep. It's very critical to go sleep well and go to the exam really fresh. So that's another very, very important point that you need to keep in mind.
I think that's awesome. I think positivity and just believe this is going to work for you and do your best. I think this is really great. Let me hear, is there someone else who would like to ask a question from the audience? We still have a few minutes with us. Anything you would like to?
I have received a couple of questions, Mohsen, so I will just use them preemptively from the invite. So the one question was, and this both of us could answer, is after, let's say, an unsuccessful attempt, is it good to give oneself a break, or is it better to take the exam as soon as possible?
That's a good question.
It's a very good question.
And what do you say? Experience? Yeah.
My recommendation is always to go back to it very soon. See, I would say the quicker you go back to it, the better is the chance of your success. Many of the times, when you're preparing, you make compromises. And when you make compromises, obviously, unfortunately, the exam sometimes doesn't turn out in your favor. Now, if you give it immediately, the knowledge is fresh in your mind, the content is not changing, the syllabus is the same, and it allows you to basically overcome your lacunas. The test tells you where you have faltered. So you can overcome your weaknesses, focus a little bit more on your practice, and improve the probability of success. So as we learn in probability, the conditional probability of success improves. So I would immediately say that, give the exam sooner, quicker, because logically the gap is 6 months anyway. You can't attempt the exam within 6 months. So 6 months is more than enough to compound your knowledge, overcome your gaps, and absolutely smash the exam.
Yes, and I agree with you. 6 months is enough, is long enough for you to get some rest and to recharge, and also not to lose what you have, to retain what things you know, and you can build on it. I think this would be a great advice. Once you're, there is also a question in the chat. So let's proceed with your questions that you're receiving, and then we can address the question by Aldos. But
there
you
is
have.
there is just a couple of more. One, I will send it to you as CFA Society Emirates member. One is a technical question. It's actually a subject question about mortgage-backed securities. So is the MBS issued by a special purpose entity or a financial company? What is the difference between covered bonds and an MBS? Right. So this is a technical question. I thought if this is something that, of course, I'm very happy to answer if sent to me separately, but very quickly, a mortgage-backed security involves an SPV to make it a bankruptcy remote structure. But on the other hand, covered bonds are directly issued by financial companies, by banks, by segregating the assets on the balance sheet. So MBS involves the SPVs, covered bonds are directly done by financial companies. The next question for you, Mohsen, is job opportunities and salary range after clearing CFA level 1.
Certainly higher than without. That's what I can say.
Very good answer.
No, that's the truth. The many factors come in it. And to me, I see it the way you see it. Every opportunity you grab on it, no matter what you end up with, it will be better than what you end up without. And that's what it is. You are adding to yourself a set of knowledge that is comprehensive, that is edge, that's frontier, that is integrative, that is a set of skills that is applicable, that is valuable. You will be able to assess, evaluate, deploy, and make recommendations. And you will be able to get throughout of this, the hidden secrets. And the hidden secrets, in my view, is you were able to go through it, is that you were perseverant, is that on a Thursday night you didn't go out, that you were here listening, that you were put the effort. By the time you do through all of this, you have engaged, you have learned knowledge and skills and set of competencies that will make you a much better person when it comes to your career and to your employability. So I may not be able to tell you whether that translates to 10% or 30% of your salary. I will able to tell you that your chances of success are significantly higher with than without. That's what it is. You're improving on every opportunity that leads to a better life, better successful life, and you're doing the right thing. That's what it is.
So we have another question. When would be the next exam window? The next exam window depends upon, what you are doing currently. So if you have not attempted the exam, then the next exam window for you could be as soon as February. But if you are asking in terms of repeating the exam, so if you attempt the November exam and you want to give it again, then you'll have to give it in the May window. So it all depends upon the level and everything. So, right. So the gap between two exams needs to be 6 months. That is the rule. Yeah. I think Dar is again wanting to ask something.
Yes. This is more of a question regarding the testing centers, and it's specifically for UAE. Now, on the requirements, it just says from the email from Prometric, it just mentions that we have to be vaccinated. But I read somewhere, I think maybe on Reddit or somewhere, that you also have to take a COVID test and have to be negative. So I just wanted to confirm if you need the COVID test if you are fully vaccinated. I'm not sure if anybody will be able to answer this, but yeah.
I won't know the specifics about your exam center, but I can say that based on different locations have different requirements. So it's hard to say based on what you saw on Reddit if that was applicable to your specific test center or somewhere else, because as you know, government rules and restrictions change by locale. So whatever is in that email from Prometric is going to be correct for your specific test center. And you can also double check that if you just want to make sure and be comfortable. Prometric has a web page that shows all of the requirements for all of the various test centers that they have throughout the world. And that is available on their public website, or we also link to it from some of our pages on CFA Institute's website. So you can kind of check it both places just to be sure. And of course, if you have specific questions, you feel like you can't find it there, if you reach out to CFA Institute's customer service team, we can direct you to the right place.
Dar, I think
Great. Thank you.
The instruction basically says that you will need to show green and or COVID test. So it's better just to check up with the Prometric center itself. Just, call them, they will guide you.
And Vishal, and some of these things change. So
yeah.
When would be the closest, and that's I think what Kristina was trying to allude to. What is the closest time before they stop calling? Maybe.
Yeah, I would say that because if the COVID test is needed, it's still got to be 24 hours, right? So logically, I wouldn't assume that something would change as soon as 3 days before the exam. So I think last 3 days, before that, it's good to get a check done that do you need a COVID test or not. And so, probably asking the center straight away, close away is easier.
Yes. Dar, thank you for asking this question, because it reinforces for everybody to make sure that they check as opposed to they assume they know. And sometimes, we don't want unpleasant surprises on that day. I thank you for the question. I have a question for you, Vishal, and then we conclude, because we're okay. Here's a question: what about the post-exam window down process? What about wind down? Yeah, the 6 months, is that the question?
Yes, wind down process. Yeah, you get your life back. At least for some time, if you're not planning to do the next exam.
Winding down.
If you have me as your professor, I unfortunately I don't give you life back. So I'm one of those who believe in keep going, right? Because I believe in momentum. Everything is momentum. So I've pushed people to really finish, CFA program in as soon as possible based on legal eligibility. I think I always push that, but different people work different ways. I've known people who've done the program over 4 to 5 years as well, taking own sweet breaks and, finishing one program. So, wind down, but let me put it this way. If you do plan to take a break, then that break has to be useful leading into the next level. So if you, let's say, finish the level 1, then, before you come to the level 2, it's good to know what is in store for level 2 and improve your practical knowledge, because level 1 is incredible, but level 2 probably for me is the most amazing content that you see anywhere. So I would suggest that, you develop your skill sets, learn few newer skills, learn a bit about machine learning, develop your financial modeling skills, get other skill sets that will aid and make you a more complete CFA, charter holder in the long term. So I think I would say wind down process. Yes, relax, spend time with family, watch a few movies, catch up on binge watching shows. But along with that, once you're done with that 15-20 day process, please don't discuss the exam with anybody, because it will not only be hurting you, because most of the times when you discuss, you end up realizing you've made the mistake and you lose confidence, and anyways you'll be violating ethical standards. So I would recommend that just relax, spend time, forget about the exam till the result comes, and once that wind down process is over, start seeing to build ancillary complementary skill sets till you appear for the next exam, and that is very, very important.
So 15 to 20 days, that's what I hear. 15 to 20 days, not more. Okay. We are a few minutes away. We can take it from 7 local time, and we can end it, or we can get
Mohsen, come on, tell us your experience and your tips, and that could be a nice closing. Tell the students what you did, and they can take that positivity into the exam.
Yes, speaking after you is a challenge, and adding to something that you have not said is also a challenge. But the biggest challenge of all is going back in time when I actually do it, and that did it, and that was many, many years ago. So I'm trying to put, when I'm listening to all of this, all I was thinking, I wish somebody told me all of that. I was doing some of the wrong things, but here is how it happened. When I took the exam, I was a professor, and some of my students were taking the exam. And the reason I took the exam is because I kept telling my students, it's a wonderful thing, until one student told me, if it were so wonderful, why don't you do it? And then I said, you know what, such a good point. And if I am going to ever tell you it's a good thing, I'm going to lead by example. When is the next exam? And sure enough, I registered. And here we go, myself and my students sitting on the same, like next to that each other. And I'm thinking, what if they pass and they don't, like, right? Or what if the unforeseen happens? And then I was like, should I hide? And should I not? But they made a point to come and shake my hand and to make sure they tell me, you know, we saw you here. But I took that, and it was a little bit interesting because I was going through what it takes to make a point. Whatever happens, I am telling you, self-development, that's what it is. I didn't necessarily, I was in academia, so it wasn't necessarily the practitioner. Even then I went through it, and then I was sitting there and I was doing some of the questions, looking at some of my students, and I said, I taught you this, you'd better answer it, and stuff like that. So I answered, life is good, and you always hear from those who pass, and you don't hear from those who don't. And I always wondered why, because those who don't are the ones we need to talk and revise, because to me, it's a process. And yeah, you cannot get something not right. That's okay. We're going to put it together. We're going to revise. We're going to sit together. We're going to strategize. We're going to do everything we can. And ultimately, we're going to get it. It's perseverance. It is hard. It is being able to put that objective in front of you and say, I'm going to do it. No, it doesn't, I don't get it this time. So big deal. I'm going to get it the next time. Life is ahead of me, that kind of thing. So that was one. When I did one, I did it out of that. After I passed one, I was invested. I never stopped in the middle. I don't drop the ball down. I was like, I passed one. I need to finish this. Now, two was a challenge, as you may or may not know. Now, by the time two showed up, I was busy, I had children, I had this, it was difficult that way. So here I take Vishal's point, do it when you can, do it as you go, get it out of the way and free yourself to do all the great things you're meant to do. So 2 was great. There was a time after 2 when I was tired because I was doing extra above my job, and then I felt perhaps I should postpone 3. But I didn't, because of the same thing, because I was passing and my students were passing and the pressure was on. And again, now I passed through the hardest, which is level 2. I would never leave 3 out. Believe me, I found 3 to be the hardest. I did exactly the thing that Vishal said. People don't finish. I was writing, typing. No, it was writing. Like, you know, I wanted to write everything. I was not concise. I was not great at keeping time because, you know, so I was writing and then time was up and I felt stressed. I collected myself together and then I went through in the second part and I made sure that I finished. By the time of it, I learned so much that even it helped me in my teaching, it helped me in my research, it helped me when I talk to practitioners, it helped me all over the place. But one thing, if there is one thing in all throughout, in my mind, it is perseverance. This is what it is. You keep pushing, whatever it takes, no matter how hard you or away you think you are, you keep trying. And ultimately, you're gonna get it. I am positive. There's no doubt in my head. You're gonna get it. You're gonna celebrate it. You're gonna be happy. Those are my thoughts, Vishal. This is my
absolutely beautiful.
This was my little secret that you made.
And
me
I
say,
think we couldn't have ended on a higher note.
Thank you so much,
wonderful.
everybody. Enjoy the last few days. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be well, and what they call the unbearable present for an ideal future. Everybody, I leave you at this note.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. All the best. Go smash the exam.
There you go.